Hey, welcome to Words of Wisdom. Today is April 23rd, and this is our second iteration of our endeavor to really bring you good in-home content and creative ways to help you all through this changing world that we're living in. My name is Louisa Eiler, and I'm a college professor. I teach sociology, so human behavior is my middle name. And a few months ago, I had the opportunity to connect with Tamra Simmons, and I know that because she is the CEO of her own branding agency and that she has a lot of great information from working with others in the entertainment industry and all of the ways that she's united to help people all throughout her career, and because she's a family person, and that judging by all of the things that people respond to her social media feeds, people look up to her and respect what she has to say. So a couple of weeks ago, I outreached to her and I said, hey, we need to be talking to people. And so that's how this kind of whole platform began. So she said, you've got to meet Shatonna Nelson, and Shatonna and I connected, and that woman is like wildfire. When you ask her to do something, hold on to your seat on the school bus, because we are going around the corners fast. And whether it's 2 a.m. or 6 a.m., she is ready to work. And even in this time when there's a limited staff and just, we're putting the pieces together, she has just pioneered this, and I am so grateful. So thank you. And to test the waters, when this all started, another good friend of mine that I've met along the way, Lauren Francesca, who's a comedian and a model and an actress and just a beautiful person inside and out. Even though she's typically known for bringing the funny and, making people laugh, she has really kept inspiring her millions of followers by, even when she's scared herself or even when she's going through stuff, to kind of, put her best foot forward and just do things to keep telling people that it's going to be okay and that we're going to get through this. And if any of you have yet to see it, you've got to check out her Instagram, because she's got a scene where, well, I guess I'll ask everyone on the Zoom panel. I can't see it, but you're all wearing pants, right?
Okay.
So if you all have been following along on social media and what's happening in the world, there's this big joke about who wears pants, right? I think we'll start with Stacy and go from there. So welcome, Stacy.
Okay. My name is Stacy Kaiser. I am a licensed psychotherapist and relationship expert, trauma specialist, and I also work in all kinds of areas of crisis. I actually started my foundation working as a therapist in a crisis center and spent 20 years there. And so basically I saw everything there is to see, all kinds of traumatic experiences. And then that naturally led me to be in television, where I have been dealing with people who are managing all sorts of situations for about the last 10 years. And most recently, I got to know Tamra through working behind the scenes on Surviving R. Kelly. And so I'm really glad to have been invited to be here.
Yes, I think Stacy saved us all during that time. She didn't even know it. And I was talking to her about everything I was going through. She's like, maybe you need therapy too. I'm like, I
do. Did I say that?
We'll introduce Dr. Ish.
Yeah, sure. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm Dr. Ish, major board-certified psychiatrist. I specialize in women, children, families, and detox. So when I'm not on TV during the Marriage Bootcamp thing or working with the reality stars, I have a few detox clinics on the East Coast where we do all opiates. And so I like to say, whether it's a toxic chemical poisoning in your body or a toxic relationship poisoning in your life, I help you try to get rid of both.
And next, we'll introduce Lauren Francesca.
Hello everybody. I am an actress, and I have, I guess, a following online that I've built. And I make videos every day and try to inspire people to be more motivated in this time where it's hard to even be motivated myself, but it's a daily process, and excited for Louisa to have me on. I invited her on my Instagram so she could give me a live therapy session. So this is great to have so many doctors here right now.
Speaking of the new connections that we have, I'd like to now turn it over to Shatonna so that she can introduce herself. You're on mute.
I took it off mute. Hi guys. So I am Shatonna Nelson.
I'm a publicist for some celebs, but I just have a unique story from childhood. So I had my own experience with quite a lot of trauma. And once I got older, I wanted to save people. So I spent a lot of time traveling around the country, trafficking victims, sexual assault victims, just being an advocate and assisting a lot of law enforcement in getting kids to talk about what's happened to them from my experience. Ultimately, I'm a humanitarian. I absolutely want to save the world. I think that looks different in every location, from Flint with the water initiative to LA where they have gang violence. And I spend a lot of time traveling around giving kids free shoes and bringing influencers in to not just change the kids' lives, but a lot of the influencers' lives also, from being able to give back. I think that truly changes you. So that's pretty much it about me. I'm just out here cleaning up messes and trying to save the world.
For sharing that. And one of the things that Shatonna is an expert in is really helping others kind of to tell their own stories and really being inspiring to others by being willing to share her own story. And she is absolutely right. She is absolutely a humanitarian. She actually also received the Yellow Rose of Texas, which is a really highly esteemed congressional award. And also she is a certified transformative mediator. So she is good to kind of really, if you watched our last week call, she really brings balance and control into every situation. And it's really a remarkable gift. So certainly appreciative of you joining, Shatonna. And then I'm going to turn it over to Tamra to kind of introduce herself. And I think one of the reasons why Tamra on this call is especially important is that as an executive producer, a good portion of her professional career is sharing the stories of others. And you know, that's one of the reasons why we're here today. And before I turn it over to Tamra, I just wanted to say that before this call, it's quite possible that many of you at home are feeling hopeless, helpless, alone, and isolated. And sometimes you're panicked about being alone. And you know, the real reason that we started Words of Wisdom and the reason we're here on this call tonight and the reason we're so glad the attendees that are on the web call and the ones that are listening via just a plain audio phone is that we hope that all of you sitting here in this room with us right now at this hour on a Thursday evening helps you know that you're not alone, that we share the same feelings, and that whatever you're going through, we're all here together. And so, you know, we just want you to know that hopefully after this call, that you'll feel better and more capable of dealing with whatever it is that you're going through, and hopefully be able to even add some joy and, you know, turn it into good grief, Charlie Brown. I mean, because that's what it's about. You know, we've all got to find our blanket and play our music, and we've all got to pay 5 cents to Lucy for a kiss, you know, so we just got to figure out what we got to do to adapt. And so I feel so grateful to have the opportunity to have started this group. And so Tamra, thank you. I'll turn it over to you for a minute and just would love for you to open it up with some, you know, introductory thoughts.
Okay. Hi, you guys. Again, thank you for joining. And Louisa forced me to do this. I'm joking. She didn't, but no, really, I had put it out there maybe like 2 weeks, maybe 2 weeks prior to us starting this. I just was like, what about the people that already have like depression, anxiety? Like, what are they doing? So I'm glad that we're able to start this Words of Wisdom. I thought it was just going to be like a one-time thing, but I did the same thing with Surviving R. Kelly when I created that. I thought it was just going to be like one person, and it ended up being more and more. That's like the story of my life. But to tell you like a little bit about me, many of you guys know I'm executive producer and creator of Surviving R. Kelly. But prior to that, I have a talent agency and a branding and marketing agency and a PR firm that I'm the CEO of. So I work with a lot of different talent. I was not supposed to be in the entertainment industry. I didn't think I was supposed to be. So initially I went to law school, and then it was just like I quit law school like my second year in, and I went into entertainment. I don't know, but that's another story for another day. But I love like helping other people. I've learned that my story inspires a lot of people, and that I guess my daily, like getting up and just going, they're like, how do you do it? And I'm just like, you just have to keep going. You have to keep going. So sometimes I don't even know you know, what to tell people to keep going. That's why I need Louisa and Shatonna and Stacy and people like that. Molly now. I have Dr. Ish, I have Lauren, I have 2 other people in my life I can bother when I don't feel like going on. But I feel like we always have that, like we always like need somebody to push us and to let us know that we're not the only ones. So I appreciate you guys being on this call. I don't wear any titles. I'm just a human being at the end of the day trying to make it in this world. And I feel like as long as people can see that they're looking at me as I'm a success story, but I'm looking at myself as I'm getting up every day and I'm trying to make it every single day. So I just want to inspire people. If I can inspire one person, then I think I've done my job here on earth.
And not to make this call super heavy and, all, super therapy bound, but there is a couple of key things, before we kind of get into the lighter side of this call, which would be gratitude. When we look at the words that we assigned to tonight's call, which are gratitude and grief, I thought we'd start with the grief, kind of get the heavy stuff out of the way, kind of let it simmer a little bit, and then kind of end on a lighter note and kind of really talk about the importance of, keeping a light heart despite all of these times. But to kind of kick it off in a real way, I've asked Stacy to kind of share just a little bit about like the stages of grief, and another point would be about vicarious trauma, because right now some of us very much so are safe in our homes, but those around us, have been touched by what's going on in the world. And, that leads to something that is known in the trauma world as vicarious trauma, meaning you hear about something or you repeatedly tell something over and over again, and then it's almost like it happened to you.
So I think it's pretty obvious to most of us that this is a situation that has left us all experiencing some sort of grief. At a bare minimum, we're having the grief of having our life as we have known it completely changed. That's for everybody. And then a lot of us have been impacted financially because we've lost our job, been furloughed, can't work because there's certain careers that, their jobs are not considered essential. And so they're just not making money, even though they haven't been fired. There are people who are dealing with friends and family members and people in their neighborhoods that are getting sick. Then we're also grieving the ability of just walking around and not thinking about our health on a daily basis. I don't know about all of you, but every time I feel like a tickle in my throat or a headache, I'm like, do I have COVID-19? And I grieve that I can't even like let that go. And I've taken my temperature like 5 times, to be completely honest. However, what I also want to talk about is that grief is a process that we go through and we experience certain things. There's a woman named Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. She's actually considered the grief expert in our profession. And she talks about the fact that we go into denial stage, bargaining stage, anger stage, depression stage, and acceptance. And what I want to tell everyone is you don't feel that all at once, and not everybody feels everything, and sometimes you go back and forth. I don't know a lot of people that have gone into acceptance actually for long, because we don't know when this is going to end, which is tending to feed, the anger and depression portions of it. The other thing that I want to talk about, which is sort of the silver lining, I think, about grief. I mean, there's nothing happy about grieving, but what it helps us remember is that we actually care about things. If someone you care about passes away, you really feel how much you cared about them based on your level of grief. And so if you're grieving through this process, you can talk about what you're really learning and experiencing in your life now that you enjoy and that you don't enjoy. And you can begin to assess your life and understand what areas you are sorry that you've lost and what areas that you hope to never lose again. In terms of the trauma that you were talking about, it is true that a lot of people are dealing with that kind of trauma. Sadly, what that trauma does is it creates, especially for compassionate people, emotional experiences that aren't even theirs. You watch a lot of TV, you're not even trying, it's all over your social media, the conversation about COVID-19, and it makes an emotional impact on us even if we are well. But I also think that in the end, most of us will end up with some kind of PTSD or post-traumatic stress disorder, which is a person who's experienced an event that is out of normal range. Well, I don't know anyone that has experienced anything like this because none of us were alive. And so for all of us, this is an event that's out of normal range. And the likelihood is that that will read as a trauma on us. And so the one thing that I want to talk about in terms of this grief and these types of traumas are self-care is critically important. I just read a study that said if you go out in nature, not only will you have real vitamin D, which they say opens, helps your immune system, but this study coming out of Harvard said that if you spend 20 to 30 minutes in nature, that your stress will lower 20%. That's a lot. And so that kind of stress management will help your ongoing potential for post-traumatic stress disorder. You also need to connect with people. Even if you're an introvert, you need to find ways to connect with others, even if it's watching something like this or interacting with one friend through that period of time. All of those kinds of things will ultimately help you in the recovery phase when this is all hopefully over.
The self-care is critically important. And for those of you on the call, I'd like to remind you, right? So you live in the city, you can't get to nature, there's no buses, you can't use the public transportation. Guess what? If you take a bath in the bathtub, that's nature. Water is nature. It's proven fact that, for most of us on the go, we're quick, we're taking showers, we're just, going quickly here and there. And, that whole act of just immersing yourself in some water. And if you're sitting on the call saying, well, I don't have a bathtub. Well, somewhere in your house, there's probably a large bowl or there's probably a sink. And so at the very minimal, you could fill up the sink or a large bowl or pot with water and even soak your feet. That is still symbiotic. And, your body feels immersed in water. And so it is sort of, the closest thing that you can get to nature. So your body will respond in a very, very positive way to that. So it's just that act of sort of, doing things that you would normally do. And, that's sort of how it all begins. It's sometimes the simple things. And then,
I just want to add something, if I can, just to that one thing. I think a lot of people are thinking, well, vodka looks like water. My wine is a liquid. And I think a lot of us are doing a lot of that. And then food, lettuce comes from nature, Cheetos do not. And so those are the kinds of things that we want to monitor in the process of making sure that we're using things in that way, in a way that's healthy.
Yes, absolutely. You have to identify the healthy parts of relieving your stress, and you have to attempt to not resort back to addictive and poor choices that only, make things worse. And, going forward, we'll try to give you some tips and pointers along the way. And I think each one of us on our own social media feeds, if you kind of read the things that we're posting daily, we're trying along the way in this journey to kind of give you some pointers that will help out. One of the things that I think is super important is like to keep yourself laughing. And that's one of the reasons that I invited Lauren on the call, because, even in her own way, she's admitting, how this is affecting her, but she is, I'm going to say it again, she is bringing the funny. Lauren, can you just share with us, about how important it is to sort of keep yourself laughing and some of the feedback that you've got from your followers, or anything you'd like to just inspire us with your humor?
I don't know. I mean, I get messages from my viewers saying like, thank you for keeping me occupied during this quarantine. So that's always, that makes me feel like what I'm doing is good. And I'm honestly busier now than I was before the quarantine, because there's so many digital interviews. My day is like packed with interviews and stuff. And I did a movie, I think about maybe 6 months ago, and it was the top 3 on Netflix's movies to watch. So then that happened. So just like all these amazing career things going on, but we can't leave our house. And I'm having these nightmares, and I'm waking up and I'm thinking like, my nightmare wasn't that bad. So I don't know. I'm trying to stay positive and just make as much content I can in my house with my mom. But I'm like, I miss California. I miss my house. I don't know.
And when you think about, when you say you have nightmares, right? So this is legitimately true. And many of you listening, you might be having nightmares and you might be waking up scared, but hear me loud and clear. When you can channel some creative energies and create something with that emotion and that extra energy that sometimes those, scary feelings bring, that's when you're able to kind of have a radical acceptance and to choose that you can accept that you're feeling something and then convert that energy and that anxiety into something that you can control, right? So if you have this extra energy, you can turn it into creativity. And Lauren, I think that's what you do every day, right?
Yeah, no, definitely every day, every single day. It's been an adventure of 10 years of doing social media. So
Yeah. And I think that's important to kind of address that, you know, like you have to be mindful that and to protect yourself, because sometimes you do put your feelings out there, and sometimes, you know, you're not sure what you're going to get back. But at the end of the day, your feelings, again, I said this last call and I'll say this again, you have to get your feelings out. And so sometimes just sending them out into the universe one time via a message to a friend or via a chat, you know, that's sort of an idea that will help you get some type of release. The challenge is, you know, if that one friend you reach out to, you know, might have their own things going on, or like Lauren might be busy and might not know you, so they might not be the best person to kind of share that in. Keep trying, reach out to another friend, think about other contacts, you know, because sometimes it's the people that, you know, might have been nice to you 2-3 years ago, or other people that were positive influences in your life that might be that person that gets you through. And, you know, there's lots of research out there on resilience in times of grief and times of emotional turmoil, that it only takes one positive contact, you know, to change everything. And, you know, the smallest, tiniest candle lights even the darkest room. So yeah, so when we think about all this stuff and some of the things that frighten us, it kind of rolls right into our next topic, which is mind over matter, right? And, you know, that's medicine, mindfulness, and moving forward. So, you know, I really wanted to bring the heavy hitters tonight. And so Dr. Ish is a board certified psychiatrist. And for those of you listening, that is a big deal, right? So that means he knows about the medicine, he knows about the physiological conditions, he knows about the cardiovascular condition. So he really knows it all, you know? So I thought maybe you could just kind of talk to us about, you know, in medical terms, we would say, Dr. Ish, please explain why concomitant therapy is really the best course of action. Now, for those of you who are listening are like, what in the heck is that crazy woman talking about? Concomitant therapy means medication is not always enough. Medication is part of sometimes the answer, but medication combined with some type of behavioral talk therapy, group therapy, you know, enhanced interventions that really get to some of the roots of what causes us to feel certain ways. So Dr. Ish, enlighten us with anything that you feel is relevant.
Yeah, so that's a good point, right? Because we've got a group of folks on the one hand who were taking medications to kind of help regulate their mood going into this thing. And now we've got a whole new group of folks on the other hand who are thinking about taking medication to get through this thing, or either we're self-medicating stuff. Stacey, you mentioned it earlier, vodka, wine, right? So 3 things are going up. The divorce rates are spiking already. We already know that. Domestic violence rates are spiking. We already know that. And substance use is spiking. So people are, and what that tells me is that people are really looking to see where they're going to be okay. So if you're on medication, or you were on medication going into this thing, the way I view it is this, you know, when I trained, we were 50% medications, 50%, you know, psychotherapy. And sometimes you honestly need both. Here's the truth. Most psychiatrists won't tell you this. Most times you don't, okay? The medications you should really, unless you have something chronic and deteriorating, like schizophrenia, that we know will be with you lifelong and it will get worse the older you are. Bipolar disorder is going to be with you all lifelong, and it will get worse if you're not consistent with your medication. So there's some things that are just going to give you, going to be on those. But other things, you should look at it as something to help you get over the hump. So I like to look at medications as that's the thing we're going to use to help you from hitting rock bottom over here, while we get busy with the therapy over here and helping you correct and fix and make whole some of the things that you feel aren't there. So I think you've got to do a really good use of both. Now, in this current situation that we have, do you need to go out and get on medication? No, you really don't. Because the thing that we've got to understand about this is for now. This is not forever, right? There is an end to this. There is an end to this pain. There's an end to this suffering. You will get your life back in some way, shape, or form. It may not resemble the life you had, but it's going to be a new routine, a new life, and you will be able to move on. And so I think for, you know, a lot of folks that really want to know, you know, what should I do with my medication? Should I go up on it? Should I go down it? I think you should hold steady with it. If you feel like on more days than not that your mood is really slipping below that threshold and you are just isolated, even when you're at home with family, or just have this this lonely feeling of emptiness, well, then you may want to look at that. And that's something you can do over the phone, video conference. You don't have to leave your house. All doctors are doing telemedicine visits right now, so you can make that small adjustment. If you haven't ever been on something and you're looking for something, a lot of folks are getting calls now about anxiety meds. You know, should I take something now? What should I do? Because people are having trouble sleeping because they're worried about, you know, everything that happened today, and we're getting corona overload from a million different sources. We're worried about our family or friends who may or may not be sick and how healthy they are, and then we're worried about ourselves. So, you know, that's a call you have to make. Again, if it's 4 or 5 days out of the week and you're really just jumping out of your skin and you don't know what else to do, you may want to think about it for the time being. But understand, again, this is for now, it's not forever. And, you know, and going back to Stacey, what you said, as you were, you know, nicely walking everybody through the steps of grief, the thing that really gets us about the grief is 3 words. If you can remember these 3 words, you can get through anything. It's loss, it's less, and it's never, right? When something happens, we had this thing and now it's not there. So as humans, we all think that the more we have, the better we're doing, right? And so I had something, but now I lost it. I had a lover and I lost it. My parents were here 2 weeks ago and now they're not here, right? I'm losing friends and family members. The life I knew, I'm losing that. And so whenever we lose anything, even if it's something that's painful to us, whenever we lose something, our brain tells us we are now less than somehow, right? I can't be happy because this thing I had, I no longer had. I lost my house. How can I be happy? I lost my car. How can I be happy? I lost my partner. How can I be, right? And so we feel like we're somehow less than, we're somehow incomplete, we're somehow not whole. And then that spirals right into that negative thought cascade of, I'll never have it again. I'll never be happy again. I'll never find a love like that again. I'll never have somebody who cares for me the way my mom loved me unconditionally. I'll never find that perfect place again. And so those 3 things, loss, less, and never, really do a number on when it comes to how do I get through this grief. But what you've got to understand is those things are not permanent, right? You aren't yet. Did you lose something? Sure, in a way, right? You may have lost the physical part of it, but that energy never goes away, right? In the known universe in which we live, energy is neither created or destroyed. So that part of this person who touched you in that way, even though you can't call them up and look into their eyes and hear their voice, you have them here in your mind, you have them here in your heart. And once the grief is past and you can think back on it and you remember something funny they said while you're grocery shopping or while you're talking to your partner, that part of you lights back up again because that energy never goes away. And so you're not less than, and there is no such thing as I'll never feel good again. Our natural state is health. We were born in perfect health. Look, think about every little bouncing, bumbling baby you've ever seen, and the only thing they want to do is laugh and poop and eat, right? Perfect health. And so we are always on that path, and most of what we've got to do with our negative thought process is just get out of our own way and let that perfect health find us again.
Can I add something? I think that's all brilliantly said, is you were talking about that whole experience where we're feeling all of these things that we're feeling and where that goes. But I think the other thing that's contributing in addition to that problem is so many people are beating themselves up for feeling that way. Like, why am I so upset? I should be grateful because some people have it worse. What is wrong with me? And so I think it's really important to know that if you are beating yourself up or judging yourself, you are bringing yourself down. And you are the only person who is with you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. But if you aren't building yourself up, who will? If you're busy questioning yourself and judging yourself, it's going to make your situation worse. And so I think what's great about what you were saying is a lot of this is just really normal. And everything that goes wrong, crises end. They eventually get better. This will get better. You will feel better, and you just have to trust in that.
Exactly. Very well said. Everything that everybody is feeling right now is valid. Whether it's the fear, just the uncertainty about what's happening, the anger that we're seeing with some of the protests, right? Everything is valid. There's no wrong way to feel right now. And we love playing the comparison game as humans, right? We love comparing our pain to the other person's pain. Oh, you had that happen? Well, let me tell you what happened to me. And so everything is valid. If you had $1 million in the stock market and you lost it and now it's down to 250, you get to feel bad about that. You don't have to, right? You still have more, but you can feel bad. It's all relative. So well said, Stacey. everything that everybody's feeling is valid. You have a right to that.
Right. And so then when you think about where do we go from here, one of the things that I kind of want to elaborate upon is, and there's also a question in the chat about this. So there's a question in the chat that says, right now, a lot of us are worried about what's going on. Can and when does constant worrying manifest itself into possible depression? So first of all, to piggyback off of what Stacy and Dr. Ish have said, right now, in the most simplest terms possible that I can put it to you, what you have to do is you have to restore trust. You can't control what's happening outside of your front door, but you can control what's happening inside your own house and what's happening inside your own mind. And so right now, how you restore trust is you be your own baby. You take care of yourself like you were taking care of a little baby, because right now this whole world is new to you, whether you're a teenager, whether you're a young adult, whether you're an 8-year-old who somehow replays this podcast, you know. You have to be your own baby, and that means if you're hungry, feed yourself. If you're tired, sleep. If you have energy, if you can't go outside, run in place. Because when you start to feel anxiety and you start to feel nervous and panicky, that's just a sign that you have to release something, right? And so if you can't feel yourself to cry, or if you can't bring yourself to write something down in a journal, it just means you have to figure out a way to get the energy out. And previously, you might go to a club, you might go play sports, you might go to the gym, you might, you know, have coffee with a friend, and so your talking would get your energy out, or just the movement of leaving your abode would get your energy out. So if it's nothing more than sitting on the couch and doing some leg lifts while you're having a commercial break, or if you take your coffee mug and like even just move your arm a few times, or you know, run in place for 2 minutes before you make that phone call, getting a little bit of that energy out is really going to help you. And then also, Dr. Ish spoke about, you know, loss, less, and never. And I know that a lot of us are sort of dealing with grief, and we have lost things, whether it be people, whether it be events, graduations, weddings, birthdays, anniversaries. And in a very tender way, some of us who have lost loved ones and were not able to attend their funerals. There's a very powerful quote that says, it's from a book called Tuesdays with Morrie by Mitch Albom. And it talks about there are ways that you can love people even when they're no longer with us. All the love you created is still there. All the memories are still there. Everything that happened lives on in the hearts of everyone that was touched and nurtured while that person was there. Death ends a life, not a relationship. So just because someone isn't with us, they're always in our minds and in our memories. That relationship lives forever. My father passed away a number of years ago. I lost my sister to suicide. And I still very much have a relationship with them. I still, in my mind, talk to them like they were still here. And some days, you know, when something happens to me and I think, oh, I wish my dad could have been there to see that, it's very helpful for me to almost in my own special way say, hey, Dad, I did this today. I know somewhere in the world you're watching over me, and I just hope you know that I'm so grateful for all the lessons you taught me, because maybe when you were here, I didn't get a chance to tell you because I was a young adult when you passed away. And, you know, what did I know at 35 years old that, you know, now as a woman who's maturing, I know so much more. And sometimes when things are removed from us very abruptly, you know, we grieve and we have regret, and there's so many things that we wish we could have done or that we wish we could have said. Those are exactly the things that you don't want to hold in. You got to find a way to get them out. And even if it's just when you're taking a shower, when you're laying in bed at night, that you just sort of exercise your voice and say them into the air, getting them out is 100 times better than letting them be inside you. And that's really one of the things that's going to propel you through this. And you have to be thankful. You know, when you feel something and you're scared and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm feeling anxious, or I'm so depressed, my life has changed because of this. If you can muster up just a small amount more courage to say, okay, how do I be grateful for this, right? How do I take my pain and just make a simple choice consciously to turn it into gratitude, right? So Lauren, tell me something. You know, I know you've been showing a lot of gratitude to your followers, right?
Yes.
So when people are outreaching to you and trying to connect with you, what are some things that, you've been fortunate enough to kind of share with your followers, and how do you say thank you to the people who kind of tune in day after day?
Well, it was really amazing when I went to London. I didn't know a lot of people, and I met with a bunch of my longtime followers, which was great. And I needed help getting to the airport, and one of my followers helped me with my bags. Very sweet. And I met one of my followers who 10 years ago made my first fan club. So that was really cool. That was in London. But I always try to just be open and honest with people. I get a lot of emails every day. So one of my viewers offered, because of this whole virus stuff, he has a restaurant near in the same borough as where I live, where my parents live, and he's like, "Oh, let me bring you guys food." And my parents were like, "No, that's okay, Lauren." So I was like, "Oh no, just donate it. I asked him to donate it." And I think I'm always nice if I know a follower needs something, or a viewer needs something, I'll try to help with that.
Reaching out again and showing gratitude, because being nice goes a long way. And if you're stuck at home right now and this is going on and you're being angry, so in an already unknown equation, if you're adding anger, that really makes it even more difficult. So in some way, you really have to try to have courage and keep being kind. So Stacy, how do you thank yourself? You want to talk a little bit about self-gratitude?
Yes. Well, one of the things that I want to start with is letting people know that your thoughts control your feelings. So I was talking a little earlier about how we end up, putting ourselves in these situations where we are not feeling good about ourselves because we're beating ourselves up. And so self-gratitude is about wiping away all of the negative talk that goes on in your head, and instead telling yourself good things about yourself. And what I recommend that people do is that they do a little gratitude talk with themselves in bed when they wake up in the morning, or when they're brushing their teeth or taking a shower, and in the evening when they get into bed or brushing your teeth or taking a shower, where you stop and tell yourself 3 things that you like about yourself. It could be anything like, I think I have great eyelashes, to I'm a fast typist, to I'm a great loyal friend. Because it directs the focus, first of all, on the discomfort of what's going on in the world and puts it back onto you. But it also reminds you on a daily basis, twice a day, that you bring a lot to this world. My other recommendation is to think about things that you can do for yourself. So we were talking earlier about walking in nature, or taking a bath, or sticking your feet in a bucket of water. Those are all gifts that you can give to yourself even under this quarantine. And a lot of people are complaining they're eating a lot. In a way, that's feeding ourselves, and that's fine for a while, occasionally. But it's not self-care if it's like Cheetos, and I like Cheetos, you can tell. If it's like Cheetos and Oreos and things like that, you also need to, give yourself some gratitude by saying, I want to take care of my body. So I'm going to make a salad today, or I'm not going to eat any junk food today or drink any alcohol today because I need to give myself a break. And then I think the other thing that you can do, which I still, count as self-gratitude, is if you are living with someone, you and that person can spend a couple of times a week talking about what you're grateful about them. So that you're hearing from someone else the things that they love and value about you. Now, when I tried to do that, I said, let's talk about something we like about each other. Let's talk about me first. And then I was told, oh, you just want to do that to hear some good things about yourself. And I was like, no, yes, but I want to do it because giving to someone else, and it doesn't have to be a person you're living with, it could be a friend, saying something that's good about them can make you feel good inside as well.
Yeah, that's really important. And I think one of the things that people miss is that you do have to take care of yourself first. Back in the days when we were still flying on airplanes, they always give you that disclaimer before the plane takes off. It's like, hey, if anything does happen, put the oxygen mask on yourself first. And that's really something that you have to do and remind yourself of on a daily basis. And, we're therapists, so it's easy for us here to say we have all these techniques and these tools. And yeah, some of you legitimately have things that you want to vent about or kind of just unleash the dragon, right? So if you do need to do that, I would encourage you, set a timer. One of the things that I do now as a grown woman is when I have things that I want to get off my chest and share with my friends, I set a timer and I'm like, okay, I'm going to kind of cry to you or bitch to you for 5 minutes. And then when the timer goes off, I'm going to stop and we're going to use our time together to talk about good stuff that's going to enlighten us and change our mood. And, you know, what that is that's me being intentional. And so that leads us to what I sort of wanted to go into next. And maybe Dr. Ish, you could talk to us about, you know, what it means to be intentional and positive psychology.
Yeah, so it's like Stacy said, right? Every therapist knows this mantra, right? Think, feel, do. Your thoughts lead to how you feel, and how you feel leads to what you do, and what you do returns back again and influences what you think. And so there are some things we can do to be intentional about feeling better, right? And so we have this grief, we have this situation that is beyond all of our control, and we don't know what has happened. Right? And so how do we feel better amidst this loss, amidst this chaos, amidst this uncertainty? So there are some things you can do to work your way out of it. 3 things. The first thing you can do is create something, right? There's something magical and beautiful just about the process of taking something and taking nothing and turning it into something, turning a thought to a thing. So if you think about, look at social media. Look at some of your favorite artists out there, some of your favorite creators, some of your favorite musicians, some of your favorite comics, some of your favorite actors, actresses, like you, Lauren. My guess is, Lauren, in the last 3 weeks, you have probably put out twice as much content as you normally do, because that it feels good to know that you can use your gift to create this thing. I have this thought and I turn it into a thing, and that makes me feel great. But then the other thing it does is somebody else can check it out, and they can feel good from your creation, and you get to share in that. And so I think we're all really looking for new creations, right? Monday night, Babyface and Teddy Riley, 2 super producers from the 90s, broke Instagram because they were creating a battle. And they were just playing one hit after the next, after the next. There were literally 4 million people trying to get on. So you can create something. And it doesn't have to be some big grand thing. It can be something out of matchsticks. Use what you got around you, but dive into that process, and you can lose yourself in that process, and you'll be amazed how good you feel after that. The second thing you can do is you can experience something, right? We can't really experience a place right now. Some of us can get into nature and get that 15 to 20 minutes. And if you can get that fresh air and look up at the sky and realize that, wow, I'm a really small part of this larger whole, that's great. But the other thing you can do is you can experience another human wholly, fully, uniquely, right? Talking about love, Lisa, right?
Yeah.
You can experience this person in such a way that you get to know them on a deeper level, in a newer level. Because most of us, if we live with somebody, we normally have the nice daily distractions of our commute to work, and we got 8 hours on the job, and we have to commute back home, then we got to come home and we got to do the thing. And we get 4, maybe 5 wakeful, meaningful hours tops. With our partner, now we got 12, 16. You get to experience them in a whole nother way, right? And if you experience that deeply enough, well, that's going to feed back and turn into another creation, because you're going to make love and you're going to have sex, and guess what? People are going to have babies. So we're going to have a whole wave of coronials coming out of this thing, right?
Oh yeah, that's right. They actually
Coronials?
Coronials.
The coronials are coming.
I'm using that.
I actually heard that. They created the coronials. They created a new generation. So they're saying, so there was the baby boomers, and then there was the millennials, and now there's the iGen, or Generation Z, and now they're saying Generation C is coming.
It's coming. It absolutely is coming. And then the last thing you can do is give this thing some meaning, right? When we talk about grief and we talk about depression, those are 2 separate things. A lot of folks are really suffering right now, right? And so the suffering is the emotional component of depression. It's the emotional component of grief. The suffering means this bad thing is happening to me and I have no control over it. I don't know why. And so if you can give this thing that we're all going through some type of meaning to you, what does this mean? Does it really mean that life as we know it is over and everything's falling apart? We got to create some other. Maybe it means you get the chance to create it all over again new. Maybe it means you get to stop down and really take time and be invested and present with your family who, because of life distractions, you weren't able to do that. One of the things it means for a lot of us is we've gotten 3 to 4 weeks where we can stop and really think about who we are in this world, how happy we are in this world, and how I want to reemerge from this on the other side. You've got an opportunity to recreate yourself. And so if you can give this suffering some type of meaning, that I lost somebody, oh my God, what can that possibly mean? Well, look at the way they lived. Look at the love they loved and the deeds that they did, right?
Oh, yeah.
That doesn't go away. Pull that into your life and use that and teach other people about that. That gives their lost meaning, right? And so if you can create something, if you can experience something and give this a bigger meaning outside you, then you've got a really good chance of getting through it and coming through whole on the other side.
You really spoke to something that's true. Like, actions speak louder than words in this time, right? So it's not only what you say you're going to do, it's, getting up the courage to kind of do it and then really taking action. And Tamra, like, from the entertainment industry and, just from what's going on in your part of the world, you want to speak to a little bit like why actions do speak louder than words and kind of, what you're doing?
Yeah, so I mean, everyone looks for people who like say they're going to do something, then they actually follow through and do it. That's what I have learned, even like in my agency. I had a waiting list of, clients and talent that wanted to work with me. And I'm like, why? They were like, because you do what you say you're going to do. And I was like, okay, so the whole thing is that, and even people like in my DMs are like, whenever you like say something, like you actually like follow through and do it. Me not knowing that that's what I'm doing, I just say, oh, I'm manifesting this, and then it happens. I believe that, that's very important for you to like set goals for yourself. And I'm not obtaining these goals for Shatonna to like me or for Lauren to like me. I like you guys, but that's not the goal. The goal is for me to like myself, to love myself, and appreciate myself so others can do the same thing. So I feel like if we're putting that action out, as far as like we're loving ourselves, we're appreciating ourselves, we then in turn, will receive that. And especially like working on Surviving R. Kelly, it was very important for me to make sure that women that are my color are actually speaking out about the things that happen to them, and that we have people that are listening and that people that believe them and that support them. And I didn't see that before. We had Tarana Burke with the Me Too movement, but I didn't see, my culture speaking out, because we were always told that, oh, well, you shouldn't say anything, that's private, et cetera, et cetera. So even doing Surviving R. Kelly, it was really hard and difficult for me to take that action, because I knew people were going to say, oh, you're just a Black woman trying to bring down a Black man and that sort of thing. And that wasn't the case. The case was there's these Black women who have held this deep, dark secret all their lives, not because they, wanted to, but because they had to. They felt that they wouldn't be protected, or they felt that no one would believe them. And I wanted to make sure that I changed that narrative.
And even within all that, Shatonna, did you want to respond to that? You're shaking your head.
Oh, can y'all hear me? Look at me learning how to unmute it. So I kind of I don't know what happened. The internet cut me off, but when I came on, I was hearing Tam say it wasn't about anyone liking her. She just really wanted to give people an opportunity to tell what's happening with them. So I've been listening today to the doctor speak and to Lauren speak. And if I had anything to say, it would be that the biggest thing is people don't always know that they're depressed or they're going through grief. You would think they would know. Logically, as someone who has survived a lot of trauma, I'm starting at 11 years old. And I think this will probably be the last time I repeat this, but I was raped and left in a ditch at 11 years old. I could not speak for weeks. I made national news all over the country. And it was by a family member, and it was the day before Christmas. And there went all of my security. So I've been through a situation similar to what people are going through at home, because when your world comes crashing down, you don't really know at 11, no more than at 60 sometimes, I'm depressed, or this is grief, because everybody doesn't have a Dr. Ish or a Stacy. So when you begin to feel weird, you're just looking for people to talk to, and most of the time, they don't know how to respond because they haven't been through it, or they don't even know what you're saying. So this is what I've learned, and I would hope that everyone can kind of take this with them. And this is just me circling back around on what everyone else was talking about. We need to notice people going through something. When people change, we save them. most people can't save themselves. It's not even logical, because to get the strength to wake up for me from 11 to 13 was hard, because my mom didn't know I was going to school and I didn't have friends because I was the raped out girl. And that's what I was being called. So waking up for me was so hard. Waking up was hard. Let's not even talk about putting that side ponytail in. You know, that was back then. Y'all don't know nothing about that. So for me, luckily, I had a friend that wasn't my friend before that said, you're different. And that's when I knew that something was wrong with me. And at that point, because that friend said something was wrong with me, I now had someone who saw that I was different and something was wrong. To solve grief and depression, sometimes it looks like your friend, sometimes it looks like someone on a Zoom call. But the moral of the story is, as I've gotten older and I went through other things, I lost my soulmate to cancer at 34. We went from a Valentine's Day to, what do you mean he's dead? The reality is, if I can go through that and survive, anybody can. And what everyone is truly looking for somebody to tell them is, you're going to survive. Nobody says that enough. A lot of times we give them the textbook stuff and we tell them things, but nobody says it's grief, they died, that sucks. It's not okay. You should be sad, you should be crying, but guess what? You're going to survive. Nobody says that the pain is tied to the promise, that nobody told that 11-year-old girl, you're going to survive it. And you know why? Because there's millions of girls all over the country that need you too. I look at all of my circumstances now and I realize I didn't go through any of that for me. Everything that I ever went through is every door that I have to walk in and see a 4-year-old girl and sit down on that floor and build blocks with her. And she looks at me and says, nobody gets me. And I look at her and I say, I do. And you're going to survive. And she's able to talk. Just like you go get trafficking victims out of hotels and they don't want to leave. You know why they don't want to leave? Because they know that people look at you funny when you go through things, when you don't get over death the way you're supposed to, when you don't get over the relationship the way you're supposed to, when you don't get over the rape the way you're supposed to, when you don't deal with the stalker who keeps calling you on Instagram, call me, Lauren, we can get rid of him. That's called stalking. When you can't block them, that means he has a bot. That's how he's continually able to call you. That's not something to take lightly. That's when someone like me takes time during a Zoom call and stops the Zoom call and says, Lauren, that's not normal, call me. Those are the things that save. Those are the things that pull you out of grief. That's what does it. And you need a therapist and you need people to talk to, but you need to know, from me to you guys, guess what? You survive it and you turn out pretty badass.
Absolutely. That really just about sums it up. I mean,
First, I wanted to just say, Shatonna, thank you so much for sharing that with all of us, and that you are not only sharing your traumatic experience, but also your road to recovery. And yeah, you're a badass, it shows. But I want to sort of educate people about this and say that one of the main reasons that we don't realize how we're doing is because we have put the emotional wall up in order to survive. And so you're not feeling yourself because you don't want to feel your pain. And that is typically what happens with a person who's been through a trauma. I literally was talking to a client who's been through a very traumatic life, and she's talking like this. And I say, are you okay? And she goes, what do you mean I'm fine? I said, I'm gonna videotape how you're talking so you can see. And she looked and she started laughing. And she said, I didn't even know, but I look angry. And I was like, yeah. And then we got through, and she finally came to realize, like, I put the anger aside, because when you have been victimized, you do feel angry. And that's just difficult. So I just wanted people to know that letting yourself get in touch with what you are feeling begins to help the healing.
and keep in mind, all of us respond to this situation differently, right? So the initial stages of any type of healing or any type of adjustment, sometimes they happen at different paces for different people, but it all starts with shock, numbness, denial, emotional outburst. And that emotional outburst can range from anything: laughter, tears, screaming, talking, angry. And so you really just have to understand that just because somebody might be reacting in a way that seems odd to you, it might be their natural way that they would react. And so it's normal for them, although it may be abnormal for you, but it's a natural process of it all. And also, one of the things that I always just have to bring up, because, you know, I am a therapist and I try to help people in every impasse. And if this is the only call that you're ever going to listen to, I want to tell you something that could change your life forever, because I come from a crisis mentality. And so I think it's really important that if you get one message, get this. If you've got thoughts racing and running through your head, or you notice your voice getting angry and there isn't someone to pick up the phone, or you don't have the courage to share your story verbally with anyone, get out a piece of paper and start writing it down, or get on your phone and tell it to Siri or tell it to Alexa, ask them to record it and save it for you. Because one of the ways to move beyond this grief is to capture it while it's real. And what that looks like is you get it down either in a digital document or handwritten. And then just like those books on the shelf, you can put it on the shelf and not check it out again until you need to read it. But what it does is capture it. Sometimes now when I have the benefit of going back and looking through my 16-year-old diary, I can tell you exactly what's going on in my life right now because I captured that raw emotion. And writing your words down, it's sort of like, you know, when you look through old photographs and you're like, oh, I can't believe I took that photograph. Look at me back then and I've come so far. When you can document your words right now, how you're feeling, and then when this pandemic passes, or 10 years from now when your life has gotten back on track, or 10 months from now, or sometimes even 10 days from now, you're going to give yourself a round of applause and you're going to say, I did that. I came this far. Success comes in cans, not cannots. And so when someone tells you you can't do something, or when you fail an exam, or when you need more clinical hours, or when you don't get the part in a role that you're auditioning for, I'm sure Lauren can speak to this, or Stacy, or any one of us on this call can speak to this. You know, what you do is you just adjust your timeline, because the universe is on its own timeline. And through every delay, it's most important when you have a setback to decide what you're going to do at that time. So when someone says no to you for something, or when you have to extend your hours of supervision or working and the date that you had anticipated for your career to begin gets pushed back a little bit, in that gathering of time that's there from where you are to where you want to be, use it to your advantage. I spoke last week about, you know, collateral beauty and collateral damage. Really, you know, life is the sum total of love, death, and time. This call was about grief and gratitude, and, you know, everything's going to end. Sometimes we just don't know when. So we don't have to worry about when that's going to happen. Time is a constant. We don't create it. We either consume it or we waste it, or we, you know, become connoisseurs of it and use it wisely to make the most of the time that we're given. So at the end of the day, the only thing that we can control is really like how much love we exert in the world. And I found this beautiful quote that's sort of very fitting for this call. And I'm just going to read it so that I don't fumble it. Grief is like the ocean. It comes in waves, ebbing and flowing. Sometimes the water is calm and sometimes it's overwhelming. All we can do is learn to swim. And so that's why we're here. If you're on this call and you're asking about your career, kudos to you, because you're doing something. You're not just sitting at home scrolling. You're deciding, I'm going to get some new information. There might be something that I hear on this call that would benefit me. And also some of you listening might have thought, oh, there's nothing on this call that was benefit, or those ladies are, you know, and Dr. Ish, I don't even relate to them. That's when you got to challenge yourself. You have to find something good and pay attention to what you like about things versus always condemning and criticizing what you find fault with. Because when you learn to look for the silver linings, it's like the parable of good and evil. People always ask, in the parable of good and evil, who's going to win, good or evil? Whichever one you give the most attention to is going to win. So
you're gonna win. You're gonna win between the fight of good and evil. And you may come out evil and you may come out good, and that may be a part of the journey. But
right.
You know, I have some friends that went through some stuff and they're evil. Louisa, they be like, I'm about to go through this. I'm like, now at 3 o'clock in the morning, you're going to jail. She's going through that journey. I have another friend that everything is light and love. Everyone hates me, but you know what, guys? We're going to eat these cakes and hold hands and pray. Everyone has their journey. And in life, you're going to go through all different kinds. I know that you hear me being very inspirational, but I feel that grief. I felt that gratitude. I felt that life a whole bunch of times before I got here. And everyone does, even if they don't tell you, even if they look really pretty every time you see them with the best lipstick on and they switch nice and their bodies are nice and they're doctors. Oh, sorry,
Why are you talking about me? Right?
No, never. You're like, you're it. Like, okay. So everybody does it. I have my Tamra Simmons. So some days I'm like, you know what, Tamra? Everybody's annoying me. And she's like, girl, let me send you something. And then some days she called me like, I quit. I'm not going to deal, you know, and we really push each other. So the thing is, get you a support system. If you don't have one, get you a really good book. Books work. Books work because everybody's not going to always be able to be there and help you solve an issue. Sometimes you have to be isolated to grow. So what I have learned is flowers don't grow without the rain, but they don't grow without the sun either. So be very aware of that. You need the rain, you need the sun, and ultimately, most of the time, the only thing you truly have to do is endure. You can just hold on. If you can hold on just a little while, change comes because life is change. So if you are evil today, hi. If you are good today, hello. If you are winning today, hey. If you're failing today, good. But the truth is, you're here. And if you're here, guess what? You still in it. You still in it.
That's right. Such good words of wisdom.
I was going to say thank you to all you guys for being on today. I know we're still trying to work out this thing. So I appreciate you, your time. And everyone that is listening, I appreciate you guys too. I pray that there was something that was said on this Zoom call or done to like uplift you and let you know that you're going to make it also. We're all making it. We're in this together. You're not in this by yourself. And I think that's what people need to know, that they're not in this alone.
Yeah.
Social media is really impacting people's lives. I don't even think we addressed that, but that's bringing out a lot.
Yeah, the
So
exact
I don't
question.
have anything else, but I just wanted y'all to see that. I didn't want us to get
because-
off without that question being addressed.
I
'cause
was
they
going to
made me
second
think.
Lauren because she's such an influencer. I think that she can help with that.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
definitely, thanks. Thank you. I definitely feel that same stress, but I always, you have to remind yourself that social media is kind of, it's kind of government created. The people on social media, everything is algorithms. So you can't feel like you're not enough, because how are you going to compare yourself to, a photoshopped image? Or it's the same thing as magazines. It's, the Kardashians who hired, spent $20 million in advertising before they became the Kardashians. So, I mean, if you're comparing yourself to that, you can't compare yourself to it. You just have to keep doing and growing and building, because if you think in a way where it's like, I'm not enough, you'll never be enough. You just have to do as good as you can do while you do it. Otherwise you'll never do anything. It's hard. It's very hard. And this is that's what I do every day. So I'm in the same boat as you, and just know that it's all fake. It's all not real. I don't know what you guys think, but
yeah, I think that's a really good point, Lauren. The other thing, right? Because the other thing is to realize just what Lauren said. You're watching everybody's highlight reel, right? You're watching all of our greatest hits. That's not what I did today, right? Today I had a bowl of cereal and I watched the news. That's what I did today. But I'm not posting that because it's not fancy and glamorous. And so I think the thing you've got to understand is, the more you're swiping and scrolling and not sharing, the worse you're going to feel. And so if you feel like I don't have anything to add to this conversation or add to my favorite platform today, then you've got to not allow yourself time on that platform. You've got to intentionally decrease the time you're on it, right? Give yourself, okay, from 8 o'clock to 8:30, I'm going to get on and I'm going to look at everything I want to do. But all these other times, I'm going to find something else to do that makes me feel good, right? We feel like, because with social media, we feel like, I got to check in with Instagram today. I got to send this tweet today. No, you don't have to, right? What you've got to do is you've got to find the next best feeling. You've got to find the thing that makes you feel good. You've got to pet your dog. You've got to play with your cat, right? You got to pop on your favorite movie. You got to have something good to eat. Cheetos qualify, but not all day. But you got to do those things. Allow yourself that guilty little pleasure that you used to really constrict. Now's the time to allow yourself to do it. Not to the point that's going to hurt you or hurt anybody else, but allow yourself to do the thing that feels good, and now more than ever.
I will add, I agree with what you both said about this. Thank you, Dr. Ish, for giving me permission to have some Cheetos today. First of all, everything you're talking about is so correct, that I have my hair and makeup done that I did myself. I'm not seeing people, but you don't know that I'm wearing unicorn slippers right now, do you? You're gonna be watching this and you just think, oh, she looks really put together, but I have like little fuzzy purple, pink, and whatever unicorn slippers. But I think the more serious thing that I want to talk about is in life, we need to have mirrors, and mirrors reflect who we are. And if your mirror is an enhanced image of a person on the beach when they're in their slippers at home watching television, surviving R. Kelly, then what you're beginning to do is be reflected back based on that negative image. So you want to find mirrors of people who build you up, much like the people that we have here on this panel, people who make you feel good about yourself. And if you're finding that your social media doesn't feel that side, then you can limit your contact. You really should. Maybe you shouldn't be on it at all. But I think the limiting is better. And then you need to, You need to basically oppose that by reaching out and connecting with a person who is a good mirror for you, that points out to you what your attributes are, that are good and useful. And then you need to tell yourself that I don't need to reflect on things that aren't real. So if you do look at it and you do want to look at it, you need to remind yourself that that is something that someone created and doesn't have anything to do with you. So it's not really your business.
Yeah. That's absolutely right. You got to, look at things through different lenses. And that's one of the reasons why we were all hit so hard by this COVID-19, because, we get in the habit of only seeing, what's behind the lens. And when you take those lenses off and your reality is right in front of your face, sometimes it's, really hard to kind of bite, right? Because it's there. And one of the things that Dr. Ish said earlier, we won't keep you on too much longer, but I feel like this is really important. I made a note and I wanted to bring it back up. We follow the media and we kind of get caught up on what we're hearing, right? So like divorce rates are up and domestic violence is spiking and there's all these things going on. Keep in mind, it's not always a bad thing that those things are getting reported and those things are happening, because the truth is those things are always happening behind the scenes, but now people have time to deal with the stuff that they didn't have time to deal with before. So it's a real wake-up call of reality that now these things are getting documented, they're getting moved forward. We're getting more people to admit that there's domestic violence. I knew that the domestic violence was there. And for me to see the numbers of reported cases going up, to me as a therapist, that's actually a good thing, because if it's getting reported, somebody's getting help. That means somebody took a step to do something to make a change, and that's always victory. So, I think that, to just be mindful of how you interpret things and how you internalize things, because it's so critical to really have the right perspective. And, it just makes all the difference. And keep in mind that we are just 6 people who came here tonight and we volunteered our time. We're not producing some elaborate show where we have people behind the scenes doing work. It's just us. We're giving of our time, because when you give, that's how you embrace gratitude and you love. You grow love and you are enough by giving and by doing and by creating an action. You have to get it out of your head and into motion. And that's when you start seeing the change. And that's when you convert the grief to gratitude, when you can be thankful for the struggle because there was something that you learned that made you stronger. So I hope that all of you tonight here just have learned something and have grown in some way and have been grateful for having the experience of just maybe heard something that if you might not have had a need for it, that you took it in yourself and can pass it on to somebody who might benefit from it. It's really a fine balance of how much therapy to bring you versus how much lightheartedness. But at the end of the day, we're hitting it head on. The deer is in the headlights and we got to move beyond the paralysis and do something. And that's why we're here to, echo these words of wisdom so that they're heard loud and clear, that you're not alone. Grief will pass. Find a way to give it meaning and really make it a valuable lesson that builds your foundation and makes you stronger for having endured. So just thank everyone for listening and being a part of Words of Wisdom. Anything else to add?
I was going to say what Dr. Stacy said. My advice today was not sponsored by Cheetos brand.
I just wanted to clear that up.
So we totally took that where it wasn't supposed to be. She said no Cheetos, and Dr. Ish came back. Let me be clear, it wasn't me. Dr. Ish said we can have the Cheetos, Stacy. I want that to be clear because we're okay. It was Dr. Ish. So that's why we're all eating Cheetos, and we're gonna have to be working that out. Dr. Ish, I want to say that one more time so everybody knows. I did not tell everybody to get Cheetos in the comments. He did that.
I take full responsibility.
That's the first step.
Make
You know, for a lot I heard, taking responsibility.
Yeah, and you know what's going to happen now? Dr. Ish is going to be doing Cheetos ads.
I want a percentage. You know, I'm an agent.
Tamra's going to hook up the deal for you.
Let's make it big.
Yeah.
Call us, Cheetos. Listen, call us. We're responsible for a lot of Cheeto eating tonight.
I'm gonna get out my sewing machine and make you a Cheetos mask.
I want one.
I'll make it scented.
Cheetos.
I want that.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
thank everyone. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Tamra.
I was going to say thank everyone again. I really appreciate it. Lauren, I hope this helps you too. I know you want to, I don't know where you are. Don't tell me where you are because I don't know who's listening and trying to,
Right.
you know, but hopefully you get out of your mom's house soon and you'll get home too. And what's the show that we can watch on Netflix? Because I think I watched everything.
You're muted.
You're
Lauren.
muted.
Oh yeah. Badlands.
See?
Badlands.
You're
It's a movie. It's a
Badlands?
Western. Badland.
Okay,
It's a
perfect.
Western.
In the
So check it out.
comments, Lauren.
What?
Put
Oh
that in
yeah,
the comments.
I will.
Yeah.
Everybody go and check that
Everybody
out.
watch Badland and eat Cheetos while you're watching it.
And marriage
And
is
Surviving
different.
R. Kelly.
It's stuff for y'all to watch, honey. We out there. We everywhere.
Yeah,
Go to Louisa's page. You watch her be a Kardashian. Miss Stacy been out there a long time. Tamra surviving R. Kelly, honey. And you can come to my page. I promise you can get some content on there, Lord.
Yeah, that's right. You just got to step out and be more than enough, right? So the action of actually just posting it, let me tell you, so for those of you who aren't following me, I have an intranet at the university. So I've got thousands of students that I connect with, in a professional way. But I have 27 nieces and nephews, and they're always like, oh, they always usually come to my house. And now like I'm quarantined, so they can't come over. And so the easiest way for me to bring myself to my family was through Instagram. And so I started posting pictures, and that day before I pushed send on the first picture of me impersonating a Kardashian was really scary, but I did it. And now it's become fun, and it's a self-expression. And for the record, I want to state all of those pictures, I have not gone out and bought anything. I have bizarre costumes from galas and stuff, and when we get off this call tonight, I'm going to attempt my greatest endeavor yet. I figured out that I have enough costumes here that I can reenact Beyonce's 2016 Lemonade VMA performance.
That's where the call ends.
So yeah,
You do
so
not have time for the beehive, Louisa. So you better slay, honey.
I'm
That's a lot of
gonna
pressure.
I'm gonna slay it tonight. You won't even believe it. I might record the whole
I'm gonna
thing.
send you a nice message, not as your friend, as a publicist, and let you know to take that down.
And
It's
then
gonna be-
Dr. Ish or I will provide you therapy from the pain of that
Yes,
text
yes.
message.
Absolutely.
The beehive is
Absolutely.
serious. You guys know that, right?
I am
Yes.
gonna do it with integrity and artistic
Great.
impression because it's
That's
out of
great.
love and it's not to mock. It's really to
That's
show
great.
everyone that there's a little bit of Beyonce in all of us. You have to be able to step out. She has this alter ego, Sasha Fierce. She gets afraid too. So
We are aware.
I love you all. Thank you for joining. This is Words of Wisdom. Take care.
I got
Yeah.
it.
Thanks, guys.
Bye. That was good.
That was fun.
Thank you, guys.
This is a charmed life we live, so precious this life that we live.